Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Curb Cutouts podcast. Today's episode is going to be Handicap Socialization. How's it going, John and Franklin?
Good.
Great, Ryan.
Good. Wada was unable to join us for this episode, but he should hopefully be back in for the next episode that we have. So we wanted to kind of talk about handicap socialization, what it kind of means to us, what it's done for us, just kind of different aspects of socializing as a disabled individual. So I guess where do we want to start? Do we want to start kind of where do you guys want to subject you guys want to start at as far as socialization goes?
What was it like before you were injured, Franklin?
It was a lot different. I mean, before I was injured, I kind of was more social, but I did more things with other people and stuff. Didn't have to worry about kind of burden other people or do that kind of stuff. But I know that a lot of my friends that I had when I was able-bodied have gone away. I mean, it's just like because I kind of do things disabled people can do, you kind of change your friends when you become disabled and then you pick up disabled friends because they can do the same things and they can relate to the same problems that you have. I still have a few friends that, hung by me and stuff, but most likely my closer friends are my disabled friends. I mean, they can understand what you're going through and they do activities that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
With able-bodied people, there's certain things that we can't do. I mean, if there's stairs there, we're not going. I mean, we're just not going. And what do? You get there, you drive to a place, and there's stairs, and you can't go in. I mean, makes it really uncomfortable. And I've had a few things like that where if you don't know exactly where you're going, you can't do that. And I mean, I've been invited to people's houses and stuff, and people's houses that aren't disabled, you can't go in. And even my house, to transfer into a stair chair. So I really can't have any disabled people at my house, unfortunately, because they'd have to transfer it and it'd be 2 transfers, which is a no, that's a no deal thing. I mean, because it's just too much work to get into my house, and me too, getting in and out is difficult. So it's changed a lot. Yeah. How about you, Ryan? What do you think?
Muted. There, I have my microphone muted. Well, I was going to ask you. I mean, I guess I'll tell you kind of about for me being friends versus disabled and not being disabled is. So I was diagnosed at age 6 with Becker's muscular dystrophy, and all the way from then all the way till about at age probably 23, I only had friends that were all able-bodied. I did not have any disabled friends at all. I did not involve myself with the disabled community that much. I didn't do any of the camps or any of those kind of things at all. And it was an interesting transition as I got started becoming a full-time power wheelchair user at age 19. That's when I noticed that like some of my friends that I thought were friends started disappearing. Started not wanting to be there or go places with me or hang out with me. So it kind of basically did this slow little transition when I lived in Arizona, where I went from like kind of a good mix of able-bodied and disabled friends, and then once I moved to Oregon about 6 years ago, I did the opposite, and now I mainly have all disabled friends that can understand what I'm going through, understand the caregiving aspects, as compared to some of my able-bodied friends, even from my previous past I still talk to, that I haven't even seen, let's say, in 20 years. They don't know the Ryan. The one that they remember was a kid in high school that drove a four-wheel scooter and could still walk and hold on to things and walk around. That's what they remember. So it's definitely been a big change going from, I guess, my disability getting worse and worse over the years, and the transition as far as friends. And that transition's been very, very different. What about you, John?
being born with the disability, I mean, I don't necessarily see it as being a disability because I never had the ability. So friends were pretty easy to come by in the younger years, you know. All through school, I had a decent group of friends, and, you know, ones that I thought were going to be there forever. But now, here we are, 15 years out of school, and I haven't talked to what I thought was going to be my best friend in like 5, 10 years, just because he went off and got a job, got married. You know, life just goes different ways. It's not disability related for me per se, but life just goes different ways, and people
change
take a
and
different
stuff.
path. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people end up going through that. Even people with spinal cord injuries. You know, they'll have end up having a divorce situation, or their friends won't be there to stand by them through that transition, or be for them afterwards. So I think it's a pretty common thing a lot of people can relate to.
If it wasn't for the sport of power soccer, I would still be very antisocial and sheltered, just because I'm not one to physically go somewhere without being invited. You know, I don't just go to a bar to go to a bar.
You're just not going to show up randomly, like, "Hey, I'm John, coming in, watch out."
Yeah. I mean, if I'm invited, I'll go, but I'm not outgoing enough to just go sit at a restaurant and talk to the next person that comes up. And that leads to another subject of people, you know, they don't know how to react to you. A lot of people
Yes.
talk to you like you're a little kid, or, you know, you have a mental delay, and it's
Or you're deaf. Like, they like crank up their volume to full blast. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've been to the grocery store, and either they talk to me really loudly, like I can't hear. That's one thing I always get. Another thing that would happen all the time, I'd be with my caregivers, whether it be a friend of mine or even a caregiver, they would always talk to that person and ignore me, as I'm the one that's basically giving them my credit card to pay for things. They're like, "Oh, is this for him?" It's like, I'm right here. Like, I'm not invisible. Like, what is? And I think that's just a society issue. A lot of people in society were not or not necessarily have any disability etiquette and how to act around us. And I know that Franklin has a few stories, and I have a few stories of being in tight, crowded places, and we're driving our wheelchairs, and people are jumping out of our way, like if we touch them, like they're gonna like burn, like like hopping over trash cans, knocking over chairs, trying to get out of our way. We're just like driving slow, trying to get to where we're trying to go. It's crazy. You have a few of those, right, Franklin?
The famous rat dance is what we always call it, right? Because they look like they're trying to get away from a rat, like they don't know which way to go, left or right or whatever. They do this little skip and things. The thing about it is, with COVID, they do that with everybody now because they want to get everybody's way.
I think so actually, COVID has made it a little bit better, right?
Exactly. They notice that with COVID, they don't want to be near anybody, so they've always done that to me in a wheelchair. It was like, whoa. Well, do I want to go left? Do I want to go right? Do I want to go left? Do I want to go right? It's like, just relax.
It's so true.
But yeah, it's definitely a problem there, that they act different. But people change the way they talk, no matter who they talk to talk, when they're talking to somebody. I've noticed this with my wife. She has a heavy Japanese accent, right? Even her accent gets stronger when she's around English speaking people. And English speaking people start to talk with her accent when they're around her. Like, they slow down and they do a little choppier how they talk. And that's kind of, they want to communicate. They want to be able to communicate with you. I think that has a lot to do with like how cadence and accents evolve. People want to be part of your in group. So, and they do that with people with disabilities too. They try to, that's why they talk louder, because they think that it would be easier for us to hear them, or something like that, or
even talk slower,
something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, talk slower, exactly, because they don't think we can comprehend, or something like that.
Yeah, John,
it's part of human nature to be like that.
Yeah, have you a lot of issues with that, John, as far as like going into places and people acting or treating you differently?
I get a lot of it because my caregiver is a very social person. So he will initiate the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but say we're shopping for something that I've done research on, and
Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm at the store for, but the first person that has contact with the salesperson is always the caregiver. So then the salesperson wants to talk to them, and I'm the one saying, no, I need this or that. And the biggest one that I can think of right now is when I went to Guitar Center to pick up my microphone a couple years ago. I had done all the research. I knew exactly what microphone I wanted. And when we went in there, the guy wouldn't even look at me. He just talked to Chuck. So I had to
Wow.
speak to my caregiver, and then he would relay it because the guy wouldn't even talk to me as a person. And
That's
he was a
insane.
younger fella. So I think it's just, hopefully with all this podcast and, hopefully we can spread awareness that we may talk a little differently sometimes, but we are just your average people.
Yeah, and basically, just treat us like you would anybody else. Don't do anything different. That's basically the rule of thumb there. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Treat them like you would any other customer to come in there to buy a microphone, or a patron at a bar, or a person at the grocery store. I mean, that's if people would just do that, I think that could solve a lot of issues when it comes to this kind of socialization and being interpreted that way that they need that they have to do it like that.
I will admit that
John,
sometimes in public it's fun to act like, the disability is worse than it is. Like you go to like a trade show, and there's lots of room. I have friends that have given me a different nickname, and they'll yell at me like I'm not listening, you know. So we can have fun with it, but so a lot of times it's just people don't know how to socialize with you, so it's just easier to avoid it than. And like, I don't know how it is with you guys, but I would rather answer someone's question than have them assume something about me as far as
Mm-hmm.
my ability or disability goes.
Exactly. If people just ask instead of making assumptions, that's a huge thing right there. And you kind of brought up an interesting thought in my head, John, with you talking about and us talking about interaction with people. Is that there's also the whole awkwardness about like handshakes or hugs. They want to, this is obviously, pre COVID. But when people want to come in to give you a hug or like, oh, can I hug you? Which is always good to, ask. I think that's an appropriate thing. But there'd always be those ones that wouldn't or would just be so awkward about it that like, there's nothing to be awkward about. Just, if it's, I don't know. I just feel like if people have a question about how a handshake or how they could hug you, I think if they just ask, I think makes it better than trying to be like awkward about it. Have you guys ran into that at all before?
Oh yeah. Or you
John,
get
don't
the
they think you're fragile? I think
Yeah,
John,
that's
anybody with CP, they think that they're kind of really fragile, and they're not. I mean, I was surprised at that. That you're a lot tougher, and same with like Sammy and stuff. They're a lot tougher than than you would assume that they are, unless you know them. And I know these guys. These guys are tough. I mean, they get out there, they get hit in the nose with a soccer ball, and just don't even think
I
about
think
it.
most people get up after that.
well, okay, so this is a great contrast. My body in relation to Ryan's body. I mean, obviously they're two completely different bodies, but mine is so tight that my legs don't move. My
Mm-hmm.
hands barely
Contracted.
move. I have to fight to move my arms and hands, but that's not the case for you, Ryan. I mean, isn't it pretty much the opposite?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the opposite way is it's basically muscle weakness is what keeps me from moving my legs, arms, limbs. move my bobblehead, but that's a limitation of bobblehead. That's as far as that one goes. But yeah, it's true, John. Like my the way my muscles are, it keeps me from having the strength to be weight bearing or lift up my hands or arms because the muscle mass just isn't there.
Yeah.
And it's definitely makes a big difference. So let's back up a
Mine
little
is too. The control
Your control of your muscles are affected, right, Franklin, by the disorder?
control of the muscles, yeah, definitely. All the muscles as well as muscle weakness. So
let's go jump into another question. So, what would you say is your guys' biggest obstacle when it comes to socialization? Like, we could start with you, Franklin. What's like your biggest obstacle when it comes to socialization? Whether it be like meeting people, joining new groups, like what's the biggest challenge and obstacle for you?
my biggest challenge is just to get out and do it. I mean, I like to socialize, and I mean, I've tried to bring more people in because I know how isolated I was when I was. Of course, my disability was kind of strange because I went from being totally able-bodied to slowly getting less and less able to being totally 100% paralyzed, bedridden at all. I mean, couldn't keep my eyes closed. Couldn't lift an arm, couldn't move in bed, that all kinds of things, to gradually coming back. Experience the whole range of
whole spectrum
of disability, which is kind of strange, yeah. And then eventually it was like, well, I'm kind of isolated. I need to get out and do things, and I just kind of forced myself one day to go and do myself because I was scared to death. First, I was scared of falling out of my wheelchair. I mean, that I was thinking I was going to lay there in the mud puddle and do anything like that, because or tip a wheelchair over or something like that, or just that kind of thing. Those things kind of go through your mind. Well, what am I going to do? I'm in the middle of something and don't have a caregiver with me, that kind of thing, or that kind of thing. And my caregiver didn't want to go out all the time, and
So a lot of times you did it you're by yourself then. A lot of the times.
Yeah, I had to get to a point where I could do it by myself, and then I would have to have enough energy. I would have to conserve my energy beforehand to be able to get out and do this stuff, and then get back, because the riding around in your wheelchair, it beats you up. And
yeah, it does.
with the muscle weakness and stuff, it really beats me up. And I used to I was sore for 3 days after going out. But you really need that socialization. I think you really need to get out and be with friends and do things, and even just hanging out, especially when you hang out with people that know what you're going through or want to do things, and to get more people involved, because I knew how I felt, and I figured a lot of people were that way too. So that's why I asked a lot of people to go to like Will Connect and soccer and all this kind of things, anything that was involved, because the more people you got there, I thought the better it would be.
The bigger the support system, yeah, exactly. The more people we have in there, exactly. What about for you, John? What kind of obstacles? What's your biggest obstacles when it comes to socialization for you?
To me, it would either be my location, which also leads to another issue of transportation. Options are pretty well limited.
Yep.
I mean, you can schedule public transit when we're not in the current situation, but then you have to plan like 24 hours in advance for your
schedule
social life, which is kind of difficult. I mean, I have
3 days now, John.
What's that?
48-hour notice now.
They wanted us to plan 3 days ahead. Yeah, 48-hour notice.
Oh no. See, it's just.
Did you get a survey saying will you ride again if you've been vaccinated and all that kind of stuff?
No, I didn't get one. No.
But
I got one.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is probably just the transportation. And like I was saying before, the motivation to just go somewhere and set to meet someone. I have to be invited. Like, I found Ryan on Facebook, and he basically invited me out to soccer. That's how, I felt welcome there. I didn't just show up. I touched base with you before just showing up somewhere.
Yep.
Because I like to feel like I know at least someone, you know?
So you're not going in there blind, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say one of the things for me when it comes to obstacle with socialization has been kind of a two-part thing. For sure, transportation, how to get there, and then since 2017, late 2017, I've had to have basically caregivers with me all day long. So for me, it's also been trying to find somebody that's available caregiving-wise, schedule-wise, that can fit in within that socialization window to make it work. So it does mean that there's more compromises on socialization as far as like can't stay as long, maybe show up a little bit late, those kinds of things. But that's definitely for me has been the biggest challenge of socialization has been, I guess, getting there, transporting wise, making sure I have the care needs that I have. That's definitely been the hardest part for socialization for me. And then obviously now with COVID going on, as we can all of us can, for us, socialization has changed. It's Zoom meetings now, right? We're so used to seeing each other at least once a month at a minimum. And now we basically have our weekly and bi-weekly, Zoom calls that we all go on for different things. And I can't wait till things get back to the normal socialization. So those new people that are going through a disability or want to come in for the support of a disability group can come and do those things, because I feel like there's kind of a barrier with some of that when it comes to online, because not everyone might not have the ability to have a video and audio and be able to go online and be able to chat with people. Do you guys kind of agree with that? It's kind of been the challenge for people since the pandemic.
Yeah, this wasn't something that I was comfortable doing pre-COVID. But
The podcast, you mean?
Just video calls in general.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't for me, It was either text message or voice call. Video wasn't a thing. But I knew if I didn't keep some source of the interaction going with the group of friends I had, that I was going to be right back where I was 6 months prior with, one or two friends that worked for a living, and they're always busy and have their own lives. And so, not to say that we're not busy people, but our schedules line up a little better than your average 8 to 5.
The 8 to 5 worker out there. That's true. We do have a little bit more, a little opening in our schedules, we could say.
A little flexibility there.
Yeah. So let's kind of let's talk about this, and I guess the next question in a different way. So this is pre-COVID time. What fears did you have about going out in public, which kind of has to do with some obstacles, but as far as like, was there any direct fears at all about going out in public, especially you, Franklin, going out there on your own by yourself? Now you mentioned about worried about falling out the wheelchair, nobody being able to help you if that were to happen. Was there any other fears that you had?
No, getting stuck. Oh yeah, you're getting stuck, especially when you're out there. It doesn't take much to get stuck in grass or
not in a power chair, no.
Whatever, in a power chair, yeah, pretty easy. But I just kind of got over that. Other than too, because you're relying on public transportation and stuff like that, so it would be easy to get stranded and stuff. Went out all the way out to John's house there because he was way out there. Couldn't get a hold of cell service or anything like that. But the thing was kind of scary. Other than also meeting disabled people. You might say something wrong, might hurt somebody's feelings. You have to be kind of wary. I'm a pretty social guy, so I can talk to anybody. But
yeah, you are. You're very social.
More social now than I was when I was able-bodied, because usually I talk to disabled people. So I say, I've met a lot. I brought a lot of social people to soccer, and I brought a lot of them to Will Connect and stuff like that. I tried to bring in, but I brought a lot, but I've asked even more. I've had so many people that just kind of blow you off, and that's okay. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I mean, to me, it's good for them. It's not really. I mean, it's nice that they come for me because I want to bring more people there, but
the really benefits on them.
And
exactly.
I know, yeah, exactly. And it was neat because I met you at Will Connect, and I think I invited John a couple times to Will Connect too, right?
Yep.
And then even me and John went out by ourselves, so that was pretty cool. I mean, we went to a Blazer game and stuff like that, and
we got some fun stuff around town that we can do. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we used to do a lot of things together that we just go out and avoid scooters. Right?
Oh, yes. There was a problem with scooters in Portland that we had to be aware of. Little heightened sense of awareness around scooters for sure. Yeah,
that's another thing that has been big for me. I mean, I've only gone probably 5 or 6 trips without having one-on-one caregiver by my side, the whole trip. And that was a big hurdle to jump over, because that's a lot of fear. Like Franklin's saying, when you're by yourself, it's you and you're stuck.
Yeah.
If the wrong button gets pushed and the chair decides it doesn't want to go anymore, you have to be prepared to ask somebody.
Total strangers, for help.
Just complete strangers. Or like me, I had both my smartwatch and my phone. And I wore the watch just in case the phone fell off the chair,
Smart.
At least if I had something to call. But that's probably one of the biggest fears, is just getting stuck and not being able to, like Franklin was saying, all we have is public transportation. I have actually been stranded for several hours thanks to the public transportation system.
Yep.
But, in the end, as I was sitting there waiting, I just realized that, what? It's only an hour. I mean, I'm not in danger. I'm not, it's just waiting. Even if, say, my parents had to come get me, I don't go anywhere but an hour away. So the worst comes to worst, you just sit there until
wait an hour.
But
yeah, no, it's, and I think that there's been times that I've had I was able to use the wheelchair lift service. They were able to take me out to a town that's a few more miles from where I live now, and they drop me off there, no problem. They'll drop you off anywhere you want to be dropped off at. You pay for it, they'll drop you off. But here's the kicker. What they don't tell you is that they will not pick you back up because it's out of their area. Nowhere is it mentioned anywhere on their site, this is out of the area. Nowhere is it mentioned on the app saying this is out of our area. Nothing. There was no map. There was no jurisdiction as far as where they would go. So I started having to ask, like, hey, because I was literally stuck there for 3 hours and I had to wait for a friend with a wheelchair van to be able to come and get me, because, I mean, it was literally 45 minutes from home with no way of getting back at all.
Yeah. I think that has been resolved now. Now they won't even drop you off outside of the church.
That's good. No more one-way tickets anymore, John?
No one-way tickets. No tickets.
I think they got too many complaints of leaving people stuck. So.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, speaking of stories like that, of like going out in the middle of being dropped off and being left there, do you guys have any other stories of going out in public that are just I don't know, even something that's out there, funny story, a dangerous story, like, you guys got anything like that? Go ahead, John.
Oh, yes. Do you ever get the, how can I say this in a way that is
PG?
publicly okay?
Okay.
But the people that think you're not disabled and they want to fix you.
Okay, well said. Yep.
Through religion, beliefs that way, or, they just don't understand that, like in my case, I was born with it. There's nothing to be fixed. If it could have been fixed, I would have got the surgery a long time ago to fix it. But I've gotten that several times. Or you also get the ones that look at your caregiver when you walk into a restaurant and they go, "Oh, that's so nice of you to bring him out to eat." And my caregiver always looks at me like, do they not realize I'm making money? It's your life. I'm just helping you get through it. It's not, but people think, oh, it's so nice you bring your son out of the house. Well, for one, I'm not his son. And for two, I'm a normal person. So, yeah, I'm going to go out of the house.
Yeah, I think that's a common thing that happens at restaurants and those kind of places in public for sure. What about you, Franklin?
Got the ones where they don't think that why am I in a wheelchair? I'm not disabled. Had a couple people that were on the bus that didn't want to move so I could park my wheelchair. Right? Mm-hmm. But the point is like, well, he's not even disabled. What is he doing in a wheelchair? And I'm like, really? What are these braces on my legs for? Right? I just would like to wear them because fashion statement. But anyway, the thing is they don't want to move, and I thought that was the bizarrest thing. What difference would it make? Because I'm on a wheelchair, so I need a place to park it. So you have to get up. I can sit there. So I that's been the bizarrest thing for me. And you can look at my hands and tell that hands are not normal hands. I mean, that's one thing that drives me crazy sometimes. Is like, well, you're not very observant if you don't think I'm disabled.
Yeah.
And that I would fake all this, but a couple people that have done that before, like on the bus, they've said, I'm not moving because he's not disabled. He's just faking it. I was like, really? Oh. Oh, anyway, I had a bus driver say that, well, I guess nobody's going nowhere until you move.
Nice. So that's the way it should be, get those people to understand, like, hey, you can't be secured any other way. Especially even like on the MAX train we have here in Portland. I mean, we can't be secured properly without proper area to be in. Without, us rolling around inside of there, it's dangerous. 700-pound chair rolling around, it's not a good idea.
We're in somebody's way. I mean, if you're not in your little cubby hole, you're going to be blocking the aisleway, right? So nobody can get in and out. That's what the problem is. It really messes up the flow. Yep. People don't understand that. They think, oh, well, I have a limp, so I want to sit in the disabled spot. When it really doesn't matter on a train because it's all the same. I mean, it's not any closer to the door or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, back when I was in my 20s, from basically age 16 to 31, I was able to drive. I had hand controls and zero effort steering in order for me to drive. And with that setup, I would park in a handicap spot. And I have countless stories. I'll give a perfect story to where I pulled up to a bank and was sitting in the car getting ready to go in to do a deposit. And these people pulled up behind me and parked their car, came out, knocked on my window, and started yelling at me saying that I'm some young person. I have no business parking there. Just making an automatic assumption that I was not in a wheelchair. And then I just kind of ignored them. I let them bang on my window. They're cursing at me. They're yelling at me. They're doing whatever it is they're trying to do to get my attention. I just ignore them. And by that time, I already have my ramp out on the side of the car. And I roll out in the wheelchair, and they just go, "Oh, well, why didn't you say so?" And then they just walk off. I'm just like, really? Like, all because, I'm young doesn't mean there could be a chance that person has a disability. That doesn't, it was amazing to me how many times that happened when I was driving. The people would see me and they would just, make this assumption like, oh, there's some young person taking advantage of the handicap parking spot. It's going to Costco, going to grocery stores. People would harass me all the time for parking in spots. And now since I don't drive and I don't have my caregivers drive being a passenger, it hasn't happened since. This has been very interesting transition.
Yep.
So, do you guys have any other stories in relation to socialization you guys would like to talk about? What's on your mind?
Just let people know, please, if you see someone in a wheelchair, just talk to them.
Yeah, it's be yourself.
Even we have one gentleman on the soccer team, he can't even speak. He uses a pointing board to point to each letter, but you can tell he wants to interact with you. I mean, you can tell his eyes light up and smiles, So it doesn't matter what the person looks like, or, reach out to them and say hi, see how
Exactly.
they react to you, and then go from there.
Yeah, I agree. Just treat them like you would any other person out there in the world. That's all we can ask for. So, awesome.
Oh, I gotta say overall that people have been really nice. I mean, basically, people open doors for you a lot of times. People do really nice things. I mean, most people do move. Most people are
most
really
people
good.
do.
Matter of fact, they move before you even get there. So I mean, the majority. I mean, I know we're complaining about those.
That's true. Just like a big complaint episode.
A lot of people are very.
Yeah, I mean, people move out the way for us.
People are very good about time, and I thought, oh man, what am I going to do? And the cashier, of course, came around and picked it up for me and stuff. And a lot of cashiers will help me with my money. I just basically hand them the wallet, and they'll pull out the money and stuff like that when I can't get it out and stuff.
That's awesome.
But so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have that money ready. I'll have it already because I spent time pulling it out, because it takes me so much time. And then I notice when you get up there at the check stand, you get a little nervous and
try to hand over the money
with the limited ability that you have in your hands.
Yep.
Yeah, it even gets worse, right? So if you're prepared, if you have the money ready, times because I get nervous and stuff, and
yeah. Well, I mean,
you don't want to hold up the line, and
no, I mean, you definitely don't want to do that. And what you were kind of saying earlier is don't want to sound like a complaint episode at all. I mean, there are so many good people out there that are willing to help you out at the cash register. You give them the reward, like, hey, can you get that money out for me? And they'll be glad to help you. There's just that small, percentage of stories that we have about socialization that has happened to us that we're just like, really? Like, come on.
No. What this episode's meant for is those of you that are struggling with these things in disability to know that everybody has been there. We've all fought a lot of the same battles, and they do get easier. And the ones that don't get easier, you will soon learn to ignore and just move on the best you can.
Well said, John.
The thing is just to get out there and just do it, because it's good for you and it's good for society. And that's one thing I like to do things with a bunch of wheelchair people, because if we're doing things together, people don't normally see three people in a wheelchair going. I
got a story about that.
Down the street.
I got a good story about that.
Bombing down the street. Okay, bombing down the street and making everyone move out of the way. But and the famous thing that we all hate is, you want to race, right? Are you guys racing? That kind of thing. But how many times have we heard that?
Thousands.
It's an old joke that it's just so bad. Anyway.
Yeah, so you kind of brought up when there's like a group of us. Well, I've been in group of at least 9 to 12 power wheelchairs in one group out on a nice accessible paved trail, and I don't know how we have not caused a car accident before. Like, people would be slamming on their brakes, trying to look like a full on, especially if you're driving and there's like a group of at least even more than 5 going down the sidewalk. Like, people are just like, what? What's happening? Yeah, we always joke around that we should
from the asylum,
right? We've always joked around we should all get orange jumpsuits and then go down the sidewalk together just for fun. I think that'd be good times.
Poles and ivies hanging out of our arms, and like we escaped from the asylum.
Oh man, that would be awesome. Well, guys, we're getting around the time here for us to wrap this up. Anything else you guys want to add at all to today's episode?
Thanks for listening, watching, and subscribing. I think all that goes.
All that
like,
good stuff.
share,
all
subscribe.
The YouTube stuff.
Yeah, all that YouTube stuff right there. And then also don't forget to, if you are out and about and you see a curb cutout and it's not happening for you, you gotta let us know. And let me.
You got to run the ad.
Yeah, let me run a little ad here real quick, and we'll leave our audio on for this one because we always like making fun of the ad. Here we go.
Access or lack of proper accessible curb cutouts?
That guy.
Call or text our complaint line today at 505-695-CURB. Operators are not standing by, but we will air the complaints weekly after each podcast. Thanks for helping us raise awareness to lack of or access to proper curb cutouts.
I can never get enough of that ad. This is too funny every time we watch it.
Yeah.
I found one yesterday. Matter of fact, I got a picture of it for you. It's at Oregon City Fred Meyer's. It's the disabled parking area has an access area right next to it. The access area goes right up to a curb.
That's awesome.
All the way around.
See, those are the kind of things you got to send to me, Franklin. We gotta get those onto our Instagram. Let people know there's, curb cutout things everywhere. So.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and if anybody is an Instagram person and you have a picture of a curb cutout, please go ahead and tag us on Instagram at Curb Cutouts, and we'll be glad to reshare that because we want to try to get the word out there about that. So, and thank you again for joining us on this Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday as it is. And and we'll be with you guys again in about 2 weeks. So thank you, and everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys again in 2 weeks.
Bye.